Hey everybody, Joe Joseph here for thedailysheeple.com, and this is your news shot. So to activist posts we go. They say end the drug war for these very practical reasons. Something that I've said for a long time. The drug war is a complete and total failure. Anytime you try to prohibit people from getting what they want, they'll find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. You can try all you want, but in the end you will fail. And it says, Timothy Hasayo recently made the startling case that libertarians should support the war on drugs by claiming that recreational drug use undermines a critical precondition for freedom, namely the ability to think clearly and to choose wisely. Timothy notes this, quote, accordingly, since the government has a responsibility to protect personal freedom, it also must protect and promote a culture that is conducive to clear thinking and discourages impaired thinking. The government, therefore, has a responsibility to restrict activities that impair, destroy, or otherwise undermine clear thinking. Now, there are many types of libertarianism. They range from the strong version, which is grounded in the non-aggression principle and prohibits any coercion by government, to the weaker impaired version, where government can use force to foster particular freedoms and activities. Now, Sao's argument obviously rests on the weak side of libertarianism. Now, before I go on, I just want to say, isn't it asinine that somebody would say such a thing? Isn't it short-sighted to look at life so statically, I guess you could say, instead of the dynamic way that life truly exists? Because, you know, what we perceive, the human senses, if you will, is just a sliver of what's actually out there. You know, and I'll give you an example. Science says that we see about 5% of the light spectrum, right? 5%. The other 95% we can't see. The other 95% of things that exist, we can't perceive. And this is big because in the past, even the recent past, humans were more in tune with the forces and the things that we can't see than we are today. As a matter of fact, I will go on to say, I'll go out on a ledge and say that we have never been so disconnected to the things we can't see than ever before. It says here, the arguments that alcohol and drugs alter our ability to think clearly and therefore need to be restricted is not new. In fact, it can be likely traced back thousands of years and was a common argument in the modern American movement to prohibit alcohol during the 19th century and during the war on drugs of the 20th century. Recall, for instance, the reefer madness hysteria of the 1930s, when the use of cannabis was said to cause insanity and violence and rape and murder and acts of superhuman strength. Now, the larger point here is Sao's use of libertarianism shows just how popular libertarian thinking has become. In fact, demographically speaking, libertarianism and libertarian conservatism seem to be a wave of the future. But drug and alcohol prohibition is a policy usually connected to the ideology of progressivism and even fascism. Now, I will say that one thing that has gone down while the use of drugs and alcohol and all this has skyrocketed is personal responsibility. You know, we used to live in a world where you could get cocaine over the counter, where marijuana, hell, the founding fathers all grew it, acres and acres of it. They smoked it. Where you could have laudanum. You just buy it in the store. Where cars didn't have seat belts. And yet we made it. Humans survived. That crazy, crazy period. The wild, wild west. We all survived. How did we do it? How did we do it? Why are we even arguing these points that we should, or based on Professor Sao and his view this should happen. Says who? Folks, who knows what's best for you? You know, there is very practical reasons to end the war on drugs. The most practical is history. Look at history. Human beings have survived some of the most chaotic times that have ever been seen on this planet. You know, I stutter. When you look at today's society and just how coddled we are, it really makes me shudder to think what would happen if the safety of society is removed, if you will. And what would happen then? Because you see, there is no underlying knowledge anymore for most, at least Americans and in Western society, that people could switch over to. That's all gone now. The culture of convenience has robbed that. And further, you have this class of people, many of whom are among us, that think they know what's best for us. Now, one thing you'll never hear me say, I will tell you how I feel and my opinion on current events. The whole ideas of these news shots are simply editorials. They're editorials on stories that I find fascinating in all of our work here at Sheeple that make you think about things outside of the box. And all that I'm trying to do here is to get you to think outside of the box. We've had a lot of things happen where, and most recently we could talk about, like, say, for example, the shooting down in Florida, where people scurry for the box once something traumatic happens. They want to be in it. They need that safety of the box. And so they run to the box. Anytime there seems to be a conflict or a crisis, if you will, people scurry to the box because it's the fastest, most comfortable way to feel safe and secure. And that's just not how freedom is maintained or won. Freedom is extremely costly. It is arduous to maintain. There is no easy way to do it, no safe way to do it, no practical, happy way to do it. To be free means to embrace personal responsibility to the max. It means that your neighbor has no obligation to you whatsoever. But out of love for our fellow man, we can work together to solve some of the most complex problems humanity has ever faced. But once that person starts to tell you what's best for you, all's lost. And that's exactly what we have here now. We're a lost species, if you will, humanity. And it's a sad state of affairs when we talk about war on drugs, prohibition. You know, now you're talking about, well, what need does somebody have for an AR-15? Or what need does somebody have for these weapons of war? And the fact is, no one knows your needs more than you. And no one has a right to tell you what you need. I mean, it's just that simple. And it's only through the advancement of these socialist, nanny state, cradle to grave, coddling structures, if you will, that people are controlled. You know, we truly do live in a matrix. And as people become more dependent on the matrix, their existence, the very fabric of who they are, becomes intertwined with it, to the point where, or there comes a point where, you can't survive without it. And to break free and cut yourself free from the matrix, once you've been interwoven, is very difficult. And you'll find a lot of resistance to it. But if you do, and you're one of the few that escape, the road may be perilous, but the knowledge that you gain and the understanding that comes with breaking free and living outside of that box can't be put into words. And you realize that this existence here that we live is just a snippet in time, a drop in the bucket in the grand scheme of things. And after that, you don't need prohibition. You don't need state-sponsored, cradle-to-grave safety nets. You don't need any of that. The driving force is love and light. And if more people can embrace that, then we're well on our way. Because if you do that, then personal responsibility, mutual respect go hand in hand. And then it's game over. So I say that we ditch the war on drugs and do the right thing, which is embrace personal responsibility, mutual respect, and unconditional love. Those three things will solve the war on drugs, the war on poverty, will solve war. There would be no more war. Now, I know this sounds like a little bit of love, peace, and harmony, but it is possible, and all it takes is you. That's it. You, the individual, to change your ways, to be the change you want to see in the world. I'm Joe Joseph. This was thedailysheeple.com's News Shot. Feel free to comment below and visit our website at thedailysheeple.com. #WakeTheFlockUp. Have a great day.